This is the 2024 Toyota Land Cruiser. Yes, Toyota's brought back its longest running nameplate after a few years' vacation on these shores. But instead of taking that time to just sit around and do nothing, the Land Cruiser's come back fitter, trimmer, and more keeping in line with what it used to be before it became a Lexus in all but name. How about we take a look? The reborn Land Cruiser shares much of its underpinnings with the related Toyota Tacoma and Lexus GX. Now that translates to a body-on-frame chassis with a double wishbone front suspension and a multi-link rear featuring coil springs. No fancy schmancy air suspension here. Full-time four-wheel drive is standard, including a center locking differential and a 2-speed transfer case. There's also an electronic locking rear diff and an automatic limited slip differential. The Land Cruiser and First Edition trims pinch the Tacoma's front stabilizer bar disconnect function. So I'm only seeing this for the first time along with you folks, but they've really nailed the styling for this new Land Cruiser in my mind anyway. So this is the 1958 edition, which serves as the base model in the 3 trim grade, and you can tell it apart by these round LED headlights. So they're shared with the First Edition, but of course that's a limited edition model. So you've got this black plastic bumper. Without the body color parts, it doesn't look as separated as the regular Land Cruiser trim inside, but still very rugged. Now we move along to the sides. You've got these squared off wheel arches, still 18-inch wheels, but it is a different design than the one inside. You've got these chunky square side mirrors. I'm going to say chunky a lot through this because really that's what the Land Cruiser is all about. You've got a strong shoulder line here. This model, being the 1958, does not have the two-tone roof, but it is a pretty sleek silver anyway. And then we're going to move around to the back, and we've got big rectangular tail lights, Land Cruiser, Toyota, iForce Max, which of course tells us that this is a hybrid, but I don't want to forget that we also have separate glass to open the tailgate. So in fact, the 2024 Toyota Land Cruiser will only come with a hybrid powertrain on these shores. It borrows the Tacoma's most muscular setup, pairing a 2.4-liter turbo 4-cylinder with an electric motor. That motor pulls charge from a 1.87 kilowatt-hour nickel-metal hydride battery. Combined outputs are 326 horsepower and 465 pound-feet of torque, all routed through an 8-speed automatic transmission. Now for reference, that's comfortably more horsepower and vastly more torque than Jeep Wrangler's 2-liter or 3.6-liter engine options, as well as the Bronco's standard 2.3-liter turbo. The Bronco's upgrade V6 puts out slightly more horsepower and 415 pound-feet of torque, while the Wrangler 4xE's plug-in powertrain offers 375 horsepower and 470 pound-feet of torque. Alright, so here we are inside the 2024 Land Cruiser. And for anyone who's familiar with the 4Runner and the fact that, it's been more or less the same interior for 15 years, this is a dramatic change. So, down here in the center console, you have multiple different drive mode selectors. You've got high 4, low 4, just the push and change. You've got your locking differential buttons over here and traction control. A chunky shifter. Like I said, I'm going to be talking chunky a lot because really that's how this Land Cruiser feels. You've got a really nice, clean center stack with all the individual controls all kept nice and close together. Weirdly, I'm only going to say this once about the Land Cruiser. There's a bit of a Prius vibe with these buttons. Having the 2 different planes for all the buttons is a nice way to have a lot of physical controls in a not so big space. Of course, this being a modern Toyota, you do have the new infotainment screen here. This is the 8-inch model because this is, again, the 1958 edition. But you do have a really clean dashboard design that is unique enough to stand out from the rest of Toyota's truck lineup. You also get these cool aircon vents at both sides of the dashboard, which have a nice little rotary design, and they're really easy to point wherever you need them to go. So it's hard to get a bead on the size of the Land Cruiser just from pictures, so let's talk numbers. At 193.7 inches long, it's about 2 inches longer than a 4Runner and a little over 3 inches shorter than the GX. It's also just shy of 10 inches longer than the old FJ Cruiser. The wheelbase is the same 112.2 inches as the last Land Cruiser, the existing LX, and the GX. It's what Toyota has called the golden ratio for decades now. Ground clearance is 8.7 inches. It's down compared to all of its relatives. Meanwhile, the Land Cruiser boasts a 31-degree approach angle, 25 degrees for breakover, and 22 for departure. The 1958 edition knocks that first number down to an even 30. Those are better scores than its closest sibling, but also down on the existing 4Runner. Multi-Terrain Select is standard on the Land Cruiser grade and now works with both four-wheel drive high and low. This includes a crawl feature, which functions as a sort of off-road cruise control. Downhill assist control is also included. The Land Cruiser trim also includes the multi-terrain monitor, which allows drivers to use exterior camera feeds to see the trail ahead. Other tech features include an available 4G hotspot and digital key.
One thing I really do like in the new Land Cruiser interior is that this second row is very spacious. You're not trying to fit in a third row like you do with the 4Runner. So you've got a ton of headroom up here because this is a completely flat roof in the 1958. You've also got this really hardy cloth seating, and I feel like, early times of course, but I feel like this will wear really well, which is kind of a big deal for someone who's going to be buying a mid $50,000 off-roader. Got a good amount of legroom here. The seat up front is pushed pretty far back. So yeah, I'm ready for some off-roading.
Move up to the main trim and you'll find Softex seating in black or brown with heating and ventilation up front. Leather is available and standard on the first edition. Now that special edition will be limited to just 5,000 units for North America and comes with a roof rack, rock rails, the round headlights, a front skid plate, and unique interior trim pieces. Of course, Toyota Safety Sense 3.0 is standard across the Land Cruiser family, including assists like automated emergency braking, lane keep assist, adaptive cruise control, traffic sign recognition, and auto high beams. So where does that leave the 4Runner, which is built at the same Tahara plant? Well, we asked Toyota PR Connor Hoffman just that. Connor's response was that if you look at pricing and trim levels across the grade, this is a more simple grade structure and it starts in the mid-50s, so you can piece together the answer. Obviously, the 4Runner is super important to the North American market, and in terms of the next-gen 4Runner, well, they just don't have anything to announce right now. But we imagine it will slot in under this iconic nameplate. The 2024 Toyota Land Cruiser will start in the mid-50s in America. Canadian pricing is unknown at this point. Sales will start in the spring of next year, so expect more details closer to launch. What do you think? Do you think Toyota has remade this Land Cruiser in a way that can take on the Wrangler and Bronco? And which headlight system do you prefer, the rounds or the squares? Let us know in the comments section.